So today we are going to continue with chapter 15, the one which we started yesterday. And today we are going to talk about geometric standards for highway design, okay, or standards for geometric design of highways. Okay. So what are the highway design standards? The standards which you have to follow during your design. So you have a set of values or you have some equations which you are going to follow. So each country or each organization may have their own standards and they may be following their own equations. Okay. So you need to select and you need to find out what standards are you going to follow. Okay. Why selection is important? Because uh, so before you start your design, the first thing you do is select the design standards which you are going to follow. Okay. Now, why we need to do this selection? Why not just take the values randomly? Because the values are there are different values for different situations. Okay. The values, if it was one set of values which you can apply to all locations and all highways, then there was no problem, right? One set of values you apply it anywhere, there's no problem. Like the signal, the lights of the signal, right? They are all over the world. They are same color, so no problem. I don't have to choose anything now. Okay, I know the colors. But if there are different shades available, different colors available, then I need to make the selection, because one set of standard which is good for one location may not be good for other location. Okay, same value cannot be applied to all highways. Same equation cannot be applied to all highways. Okay, or to all type of situations, to all types of cases. So that's why you need to make the selection, and the selection should be on the basis of the characteristics of the highway. What type of highway you have. Okay, so we already discussed the types of highways yesterday. Okay, so this is one of the factors why the standards are different. The standards for arterial cannot be same as the standard for local streets. Okay, because arterials are longer, they are wider, and local streets are narrower. And we talked about reducing the local streets. The speed should be less. On arterials, the speed is higher. Local streets, if you increase the speed, it will not be safe for the people who are coming out of garages and parking lots. Okay, so obviously the standards will not be the same. They have given an example here as well. For example, if you are designing a low volume road in a mountainous area, okay, and you use a set of design standards and you try to follow the same set of standards for a freeway in high traffic volume area. Okay, so I told you freeway is a type of rural principal arterial, right? So a low volume road in a mountainous area will be very narrow, less number of lanes, low speed, because the construction will be costly and so on. Okay, but a freeway, it will be wider, more lanes, high speed, a straight road, and I told you freeway does not have any intersections as well. Okay, they have full access control and so on. So obviously you cannot select the same design standards for these two situations or any other situation. Whenever you are selecting the design standards, you need to consider all these things. Okay, functional classification of the highway, the type of highway which we talked about yesterday. So first thing is, see in which area you're designing the highway, rural or urban, and then in that area, which type of highway you are going to design. Is it principal arterial, minor arterial, major collector, minor collector, or a local road? Then you look at the traffic volume and vehicle mix. Traffic volume means number of vehicles that are going to use the highway in a specific time period, and the mix of vehicles means the proportion of different types of vehicles in the volume. So if you have 1,000 vehicles, out of those 1,000 vehicles, some of them will be bikes, some of them will be cars, some of them will be trucks and buses and so on. So what is the proportion of each type in the traffic volume? Okay, so this is what you need to find out. Then design speed, we have already seen uh, the use of design speed in chapter 3 as well. Design speed used for calculating acceleration, side distance, radius, and so on. Okay. Then you need to select the design vehicle, the type of vehicle which you will design for. Again, going back to chapter 3, we saw how the size and weight of the design vehicle can affect the design of the highway. Okay, we discussed that. Then cross section of the highway, what are the things you will provide in the cross section? Slope and width and these things. Presence of HGVs. HGVs stand for heavy goods vehicles. Okay, let me write it here. Heavy goods vehicles. So which vehicles carry heavy goods? Trucks. Okay, so do you have trucks which will pass through this highway? Okay, if yes, then you have to consider the gradient of the highway very carefully, because trucks face a lot of problem on steep gradients. So you have to the gradient which you will design for a highway which doesn't have any trucks or which does not have any heavy trucks will be different from the gradient which you will decide for a highway which has heavy trucks. Okay? Because heavy trucks face a lot of problem in going over the gradients. So you will reduce the value of the gradient. Topography of the area, we just saw the example in the previous slide for the mountainous area. So the construction is a problem in a mountainous area. You have less space, the slopes are very steep, and so on. Level of service is the quality of flow you will provide. So for example, for the hotels and the restaurants, you have the star rating system, right? 3 star, 4 star, 5 star, 6 star. I don't know up to how much they go, but they have a rating system according to the stars. Yeah? Similarly, highways have their own rating system, and it is like your grades A, B, C, D, E, F. So, what do you want to have in the course? F, right? No, you want to have what? A. Same thing for the highway as well. A is the best, and F is the worst. Okay. So you decide what level of service you want to provide to the travelers. You want to provide level of service A or B or C as well. Okay, we will discuss them in more details when we go to the traffic engineering course, but it is the quality of service you are providing to the travelers in terms of traffic flow. Funding, okay, we talked about in chapter 14 as well, how much fund is available. So the decisions which you will make in your design will affect the construction costs and maintenance costs and many other things. Safety of drivers, pedestrians, passengers, and bicyclists. We need to consider that. And social and environmental factors. Again, going back to chapter 14, we discussed these factors in chapter 14. So social cost, meaning or social factors, population of the area, economic activities, and people and other species who are living in that area, noise pollution, air pollution. Okay, so we mean these factors needs to be considered when you are selecting the design standards. So let us talk about these factors. First one is volume. The volume which is used for design of highways is termed as DHV, design hourly volume. DHV stands for design hourly volume. Okay. Now, whenever you are going to design for any client, you will ask them, give me that DHV, design hourly volume. And the client would say that I have forecasted or predicted what will be the daily traffic in the future. You will design for the future, right? So what will be the daily traffic in future? I have that value. I can give you that, and you calculate the DHV yourself. Okay. So daily traffic will be average daily traffic, ADT, average daily traffic. So whenever traffic is forecasted for future, it is forecasted for the whole day. So I can tell you vehicles per day for future, and then it's your job as a design engineer to convert it to vehicles per hour. So DHV is in vehicles per hour, how many vehicles will pass in 1 hour, and the future traffic is given in vehicles per day, average daily traffic, how many vehicles will pass in 1 day. Now when you are so if I give you traffic for 1 day, meaning 24 hours, and you want traffic for 1 hour, so what would you do? The easiest answer is divide by 24. Take the daily value, divide by 24, right? This is the easiest, and that's why we will not do it. Yeah, we never do the easiest thing. Because life is complicated and traffic is more complicated than life. So we don't go for the easier solution. Because if you divide by 24, you are saying what? Each hour of the day has the same volume, right? From the total traffic you have in the whole day, each hour you have same number of vehicles coming. Okay, so you divide by 24. So whatever number you get, this is the same for 7 a.m. or 7 p.m., which is not true, right? 7 a.m. traffic is not equal to 7 p.m. traffic. Any hour of the day does not repeat the traffic. Okay, any hour of the day has its own value for traffic. So you cannot divide the number by 24 because this is saying that all hours carry equal volume, which is not true. Now, what should I do then? So I will show you the method. So DHV is calculated as a percentage of ADT, and that percentage is not 1 upon 24. 1 upon 24 means what? Divide by 24, right? So it is more than 1 by 24 usually. Okay, so if you want to calculate DHV, the equation, if you want to write it as in the form of an equation, then DHV equals some percentage multiplied by ADT. So I want this percentage. Okay, and this is a specific percentage. It's not equal. Okay, for all hours of the day, it's not equal. Now, how to get this percentage? You are going to construct a new highway, so for that highway you don't have any data, so I have to rely on the data for a similar area and for a similar highway. Okay, so you're designing an urban arterial, urban principal arterial, go to the ministry and tell them I'm going to design an urban principal arterial, give me data from an urban principal arterial. Okay, what data you need? You need data about hourly volume on that road for all hours of the year. Okay, so in one day you have 24 hours. So in 1 year you will have 365 into 24 hours. Okay. Now once you have that data, you will calculate. So you have volume for each hour, and if you add 24 hours of the day, you will have the volume for the whole day as well. Okay. So for this 1 year for the existing highway, you have daily volume for each day of the year, and you have hourly volume as well for each hour of the day. Now for each hour of each day, you will calculate the percentage of daily volume coming in that hour. So for example, the total daily volume was 20,000. Okay. Out of that 20,000, 2,000 came in 1 hour. So for this hour, the percentage will be how much? 2,000 upon 20,000, which is basically 10%, right? I have another hour on the same day which has 1,000 meters. So its percentage will be 1,000 upon 20,000, which will give you 5%. Okay. So for all 365 into 24 hours of the day of the year, you calculate these percentages. Okay. So for each hour of the year, you have how much percentage of traffic from the whole day came in this hour. The percentage of daily traffic which came in a particular hour. So you have these values. Okay, so these will be 365 into 24. Give me the values. 365 into 24. How many values? How much is that? Eight seven six. So you have 8760 values, 8,760 values. Okay, and each value is what? Is a percentage. Okay, percentage of what? Percentage of daily traffic which came in that hour. Some of them will be very close to each other. Obviously, you will have lots of values which are repeating. Okay, doesn't matter, but you get the idea. Okay, so for each hour you calculate percentage of traffic which came in that hour from the whole day. Okay, now you will arrange these values. So these 8,760 values will be arranged in descending order. Descending order meaning what? Highest percentage will be at the top and the lowest will be at the bottom. Okay, so if you have an hour which had only 1% of traffic and there is no value below that, so 1% will be the last value. If you have the highest percentage, which is let's say 40%, so you had an hour in which 40% of the daily traffic came, so 40% will be at the top because there is no value above that. Okay, then you plot these values. Okay, so the rank or the order of the hour will be on the x-axis and the percentage in that hour will be on the y-axis. Let me show it to you. This, I'm talking about this graph. Okay, so what is on the x-axis? The rank of the hour, and what is on the y-axis? The percentage in that hour. Okay, now the ranking system in the old edition of the book they were directly calling it the rank of the hour, order of the hour, but now they are calling it with a different name, which is hours in 1 year with a volume greater than the shown, okay, greater than this value, greater than this percentage. So how many hours are having a percentage more than the one which you have plotted? So you don't have to worry about it. If you arrange in descending order, just plot it, okay. But let me explain what they mean. If a value is the first order, if it is the first value in this series, in this order, if it is the first value, then how many values are before that? 0, right? So this value will be plotted on the x-axis as 0. So the percentage, the first value, for the first value, the x value will be 0 because there are no hours having value more than that, okay. If it is a second value, then how many hours have value more than that? 1 hour. So on the x-axis it will have an order of 1, okay. Similarly, the third value will have an order of 3, the fourth value will have the third value will have an order of 2, and the fourth value will have an order of 3, and so on, okay. So each hour will be plotted, okay. But in simple words, if you don't want to get into this, what do we mean by that? If you are getting confused, then simply I mean arrange the value in descending order, then plot the values one by one, okay, starting from 0 x value. So the first value will be when x is 0. So whatever percentage you get at the top, you plot it on the y-axis, and then you start plotting after that, okay. And y-axis 0 because there are no values higher than that. So x-axis is showing the values, the number of values which are higher than your plotted value, okay. So you can see there are 3 different curves here. They are for different types of locations. I already told you, for each type of location you may have a different curve. So this one is for a normal location, this one is for 15% of the location, this one is for 85% of the locations, okay. We are not going in the details why 15%, why 85%. Again, you will learn about it in the traffic engineering course. But let me tell you which, so each point on this curve represents a percentage, right? So I need one value from this curve, from this whole curve. I need to select one value which I can multiply with ADT to get DHV, right? Which one value should I pick? Let us take the lowest value. Can I take the lowest value? No. Why not? Because it is an underestimation. Lowest value means it's the lowest percentage. Why do you want to design for the lowest traffic? We don't want to design for the lowest traffic, right? It doesn't make sense. Okay, we want to design for highest traffic, right? We want to design for the hour of the day which has the highest volume. We call it the peak hour or the rush hour. I forgot this point earlier. So peak hour or the rush hour. Okay, so obviously that hour cannot have the lowest percentage, right? It is understandable. You can design for the average. So you have 8,700, whatever you told me earlier. Out of that, take the average of all of them. Now average will be where? Average will be in the middle of the curve, right? So middle means what? I'm only taking care of how much part of the curve? 50% part of the curve, half of the curve. Should I ignore half of the curve when I'm designing the road? Should I ignore half of the hours of the year when I'm designing the road? Obviously not. Obviously not. You cannot ignore half half of the hours of the year, or half of the hours of the day as well. Okay, you have to incorporate as many hours as possible. So obviously mean is not a good option either. It will also be an underestimation. Let us go to the other extreme. Can I design for this value, the highest value? I can. Okay. But how many times this value occurred? One time. All the other values are below that. Okay, and remember this is data from a similar highway. So what is the possibility that this value will occur multiple times on your highway during the year? Again, very low possibility. Okay, this value occurred only once on the existing highway. Okay, so what is the probability that this value will happen again in the whole year? So why should I design for a value which has a very low chance of occurring again in the whole year? Even if it repeat itself, it will repeat itself once. Okay, should I design for a value which has a chance of happening one time in the whole year? So one in the whole year means what? 1 out of 8,760 values. You see how low is the possibility of this value happening. Okay, so we don't go for the maximum as well. Which value we go for? We go for the 30th value from the x-axis. So you pick 30 from the x-axis, go to the curve and see which percentage you have got. So 30, if I'm taking the middle curve, then 30 is this on the x-axis. You go to the curve and it is almost 16%. This value is 15 point something percent. Okay, so this should be taken as a percentage. This should be multiplied with the ADT to get the DHV. Now, why I'm taking this value? It is taken because of the shape of the curve. Now you see the initial shape of the curve is very steep. It is declining with a very steep slope. And after this initial portion, the remaining portion of the curve is very gradual, is declining very gradually with a very mild slope, with a very, what do you call, with a very low value of slope. Okay, so for the initial part of the curve, the slope is very high. For the ending part of the curve, the slope is mild. Okay, why the slope is steep here? Because as you are going from 1 hour to the next hour, the percentage is decreasing very rapidly. That's why the slope is high. The y-axis is decreasing rapidly, right? That's why the slope is high. Okay, because you have more change in y, right? So I'm trying to ignore this portion of the curve. Okay, and I'm trying to cover all the mild portion of the curve. I'm trying to ignore the steep portion. I'm trying to cover the mild portion. Okay, why? Because the steep portion means that these hours have very low possibility of happening, and they have a very large difference in their percentages. Okay, so even if you take 1 hour extra on this part of the curve, you will increase the percentage a lot, maybe by 2-3%. But if you look at this portion of the curve, 1 or 2 hours up or down doesn't make much difference with the percentage. Maybe you have a difference of 0.1% or 0.2%, which is safe. Okay, so I'm trying to ignore this steep portion because this steep portion has a low possibility, and if I take the value here, it will increase the percentage of traffic very with a big difference. Okay, with a big difference. Okay, so I'm trying to cover this portion of the curve. Okay, I'm trying to cover the mild portion of the curve totally. I'm trying to ignore the steep portion of the curve totally. Okay, so what the mild portion is longer, right? Most of the values are in this portion, so I'm covering most of the values. So I'm ignoring the highest value, but I'm still very close to the high value, and I'm covering the remaining part of the curve. Okay. So normally, as I said, this usually happens. The mild portion starts from the 30th hour, from the 30th x value. So when you plot the curve, go to the x-axis, find out where is 30, and find out the percentage. Let me repeat what I just explained here. First of all, collect hourly data for all hours of the year. Then for each hour, calculate the percentage of daily traffic and arrange them in descending order, the percentages. Then you plot the percentage on the y-axis and the order on the x-axis starting from 0. And then you will have a curve like this. On this curve, go to the x value, which is 30, and find out the percentage of traffic when the x is 30. Okay, this is how you get the percentage to be multiplied with the ADT. Okay, this is what they are saying. Now, let's suppose you don't have the chance to collect the data and do all this calculations. Then you have a range. They have recommended a range as well, that the 30th highest percentage is normally between 12 to 18% for rural highways and between 8 to 12% for urban highways. Okay, so if you don't have the chance to do all this calculation and plotting and so on, just you can pick a value from this range as well. Obviously, it's an approximate value. You will prefer the first method if you have all the values. Okay. If you have the chance to use slightly older values, it is fine. Percentage of average daily traffic does not change a lot from 1 year to the next year. Okay, so if, for example, now somebody gives me data from 2018 and he says that, okay, perform the calculation, give me the percentage of ADT to be multiplied, I can use this data. Okay, it is allowed to use this data because from 18, 19, 20, the percentage does not change much. The value of ADT may go up and down, but the percentage in the peak hour will not change much. Okay, so it is allowed to use data which is from one of the previous years as well. Next important feature is the design speed. Okay, so design speed, as I said at the start, it affects many features such as radius, side distance, acceleration, okay, and many other things. Okay, we will discuss some of the other things in the in this chapter as well. Okay, but from chapter 3 we've already seen some factors which are affected by the speed of the road. Okay, so once you select the speed will help you to calculate other features of the road. How do you select the speed? You have to take into consideration all these 5 factors. What are these 5 factors? First of all, functional classification of the road. So we have talked about the functional classification yesterday. So you have to determine which type of road you are designing, because normally arterials have higher speed than local roads. Local roads are for providing access, and they have entries and exits from parking lots and garages. So we cannot increase the speed of the local road. But arterials are for longer distances and for high traffic, for heavy traffic. So they have more speed as well. Okay, and so on. Okay. Then topography of the area, the ground profile of the area. You can have level terrain, rolling terrain, or mountainous terrain. These are 3 basic types of terrain or topographies that you have to consider for designing of the highway. So level means flat. Most of the areas in Bahrain are flat. Rolling means something like this. You have very mild and gradual changes in gradients and elevations. So elevations are changing, slopes are also changing, but their changes are happening very gradually. Okay, something like this. So you can see the whole road, it does not have the same slope or the same elevation. It is going upward and the slopes are changing from one point to the other point. But these changes are not so drastic. Okay, they are very mild. Okay, so maybe the slope is changing from 1% to 2% or something like that. Okay, but then you have mountainous terrain, which is the complete opposite of the level terrain. You have changes in elevations and changes in gradients and changes in slope, which are happening very rapidly. Okay, very drastically. Something like this. See the top line? So it is going steeply up, then down, then up and down, something like this. Then you can have a curve as well and so on. Okay, so in mountainous terrains, slopes and gradients and elevations change very fast. Okay, by very fast I mean not with respect to time. I mean very fast, like in terms of distance. You are at an elevation of 1 feet, and then the next point is elevation of 6 feet. Okay, so you have this type of thing. So obviously in mountainous areas we will prefer lower speed. In level terrain we will prefer higher speed because the construction is easier, side distance is more space is available, and so on. Land use of the adjacent area, we talked about it in the last yesterday as well as in the last chapter. Okay, so we can have residential land use, commercial, and educational, and so on. So in residential areas, the speed is low because of pedestrians and kids and local streets. And commercial areas, the speed is higher because you have heavy vehicles there and so on. Length of the road, again something I talked about yesterday. If you have a straight road, a long straight road, then your speed will increase by default. Okay, so you should design, if you are designing a road which you know will be a long straight section of the road, then you should design it for a higher speed. Okay, you cannot say no, I will, the road is straight, there are no intersections, but I still want the driver to reduce their speed. They will not. They are expecting, this is their natural tendency. So don't go against the natural tendency of the driver. Okay, this is what I told you yesterday, and this is emphasized in the last point as well. That the design speed should be as per expectation of the driver. Okay, so you are coming out of the parking lot. At what speed I am expecting you to drive? Low speed. You are going into an education area near a school. I am expecting you to drive at low speed. Okay. And same thing, if you don't have any intersections or curves, then the driver is expected to drive at high speed. So you can see I'm repeating all the points which I've already said in the first 4 factors. So if you have taken care of the first 4 factors, the last factor is already done. The last factor is already satisfied. Okay. So if you spend more time on the first 4 factors, then you may not have any problem with the expectation of the driver. These are some standards for the design speeds, and you can see they are changing according to the terrain, and they are changing according to the volume as well. Which volume is that? You can see vehicles per day. So this is ADT. Okay, and just to look at the values, when you go from level to mountainous terrain, the speeds are reducing. See, when you go from top to bottom, the speeds are reducing, and when you go from left to right, what is happening with the volume? Volumes are increasing. What is happening with the speed? The speed is also increasing. So that means what? If you are designing for level terrain, you will design for high speed. If you are designing for high volume, you will design for high speed, and vice versa. So this table is for rural collector roads. I will show you another table which is for all types of roads. You can see all types of roads are mentioned here. Okay. So for arterials, minimum is 50, and then you have the whole range here. For principal arterial, minimum is 50, and then you have 60 or 70 as well. Minor arterial, it can range from 40 to 70. If you have rural collector, then you must know about the volume as well. And volume, I told you, it can be in design hourly volume or average daily traffic. It can be vehicles per hour or vehicles per day. Now let's say you are designing rural collector road, and I gave you the volume in vehicles per hour, and the volume is 100 vehicles per hour. So you will look at these 3 values. Which range I am talking about? Hourly volumes. So 100 is here. Okay, so range for your design speed can be 40, 50, and 60. But if I give you hourly volume 600 vehicles per day, so 600 is vehicles per day. So you cannot look at the range for DHV. You look at the range for ADT. So 600 means over 400. So look at this range, and which is 30, 40, and 50. Okay, so this is how you calculate this is how you look at this table. Now you can see for rural collector and rural local roads, the ranges for volumes are given. But for other types of roads, other types of highways, volume is not considered. So if you are designing principal arterial or minor arterial or collector for urban area and local street for urban area, then volume is not a problem. Volume is not considered at all. Volume is only considered if you are designing a rural collector or rural local road. Okay. In the previous tables, the values are given in miles per hour. Okay, I don't know why, but even in the new edition of the book, they did not change the units from miles to kilometers. But in the text, they have mentioned some ranges. So I have, you can see the ranges here. So normal range is from 32 to 112 km per hour with an increment of 8 km per hour. Okay, so the minimum is 32. The next value will be what? 40. Why 40? Why not 33? Because we need an increment of 8. So 30 plus 8, 40. Then next value will be 40 plus 8, 40. 48. Next value will be 48 plus 8, 56, and so on. Okay. So each value will be different from the other one with an increment of 8 kilometers per hour. If you are designing a freeway, which is a type of rural principal arterial, then your speeds will be very high, 96 to 112 km per hour. If you are designing any arterial which is not a freeway, then your speed can be from 48 to 96. And then other types of roads, collectors and local streets will have a speed of 48 miles per hour or less than that. Okay. Standards for wherein if there's an expressway, okay, I defined expressway yesterday. The highway which does not have any does not have any intersections, right? In the urban areas, the highways which does not have any intersections, full access control. So those are expressways. Their speed is 140 to 120. Arterials are 120 to 100. Collectors 100 to 70. Distributors 80 to 60. One student asked me that I said distributor are collectors in the last lecture. but they are mentioned here differently. So they basically mean this one is major collector, the first one, and the distributor is minor collector. Okay. Then we have local or access roads. Their speed is up to 50 kilometers per hour. Okay. Then design vehicle. You need to select a design vehicle. Why? Because it can change the design of the road. Okay, so which vehicle should be selected for design? The vehicle which represents all the vehicles on that highway. Represent meaning covering. Okay, if I select this vehicle, then the rest of the vehicles are already covered. Okay, so that means I should select the largest vehicle, right? If you select the largest vehicle, that means the smaller ones are already covered. Okay, if you have a door which is big enough for, if you have a garage which is big enough for a bus, then that garage is also big enough for a car as well. Same thing for the road. If you have enough space for a truck, then you have enough space for a car as well. So we go for the largest one. But should we go for the largest vehicle which is available in the market? No. Largest vehicle which is likely to use the highway, which is likely to come on the highway as well, on that highway which you are designing. So you are designing a local street. You cannot design a local street for a 10 axle truck. That truck will never come on that street. Okay, that street may have a small truck, or maybe a 3 axle truck, or maybe a bus. So design for that vehicle. Okay, any other vehicle, no matter what its size is, no matter whether it is available in the country or not, if it is not expected to come on that highway, do not select that one. So you select a vehicle which is likely to come on that highway, and that is the largest among all the vehicles that will use the highway. Okay, this largest vehicle will change many design features. Some of them we discussed in chapter 3 as well, but they include turning radius. Whenever you are turning at low speed, you have to consider the size of the vehicle. Gradients, I already told you, if you have heavy trucks, then gradients need to be lower. Okay, height of the bridges, because vehicles are supposed to go under the bridges. You should have enough space, enough head space to allow even the largest vehicle to go under the bridge. Okay, largest vehicle again that is coming, or that is expected to go under the bridge. Then there are some guidelines here. If you're designing a parking lot, design it for a passenger car, because 99% of the cases, in 99% of the cases, parking lots are for passenger cars. If you're designing an intersection for residential and park roads, meaning a local street, residential and park roads are local streets, design it for a single unit truck. So a single unit truck is a very small truck which has 2 axles. Okay, a 2 axle truck, and their size is almost equal to size of an ambulance or size of a fire truck. Okay, and this is why we are taking a single unit truck for our design, because ambulances and fire trucks are supposed to be accessible from any location, right? So a single unit truck is basically the representation of an ambulance or any other emergency vehicle. Okay, so no road is designed for a vehicle which is smaller than a single unit truck, or which is smaller than a ambulance or a fire truck. Okay, if you are designing a city street that has a bus route as well, then design according to the size of the bus. If you're designing a collector street or any other type of street, maybe a higher type of road and arterial as well, then you will at least design for a 3 axle truck, at least again. Then you have to look. So these are all minimum standards, you can say. They are all minimum standards. But if you are designing a 3 axle truck, then if you're designing a collector or a higher road, then at least design for a 3 axle truck. And if you feel a larger truck is expected to come on the highway, then you design for that. 3 axle is just the minimum. Okay, don't design for less than that. Now, if you want to see the types of vehicles, they are given in chapter 3 with the sizes. Chapter 3 has the size and the types of all the vehicles which you can consider for your design. Then we come to the cross-sectional elements. What are cross-sectional elements which are visible in the cross-section of the road? Cross-section elements are those elements of the road which are visible in the cross-section of the road. These elements can be divided into 2 categories: major elements and minor elements. What are major elements? These are the elements of the road which are either for the use of the vehicle, or they come within the space which is used for the vehicle. Okay, so they are in the space which is used for the vehicle. They are directly, or they are in the space which is allowed for the vehicle to use. Okay, major elements are those elements which are in the space which is allowed for the vehicles to use. Okay, so you can see the elements: travel lane, shoulders. Both of them are used by the vehicles, right? Travel lane, you travel on the lane, right? Shoulders, and who would know more about use of the shoulders than us? Half of the time we are on the shoulders. And median. So median is between two travel lanes. So it is still in the same space. Okay, it is between two travel lanes. And then we have minor elements, which are elements on the sides of the road, basically. So roadside barriers and guardrails, curbs and gutters, sidewalks and side slopes. So let us start the discussion about the cross section. Based upon cross section of the road, the highway can be divided into two types. There are two types of cross sections of the road: dual carriageway, which you can see in the top two images, and single carriageway, which you can see at the bottom. Okay, so there are two types of cross sections: dual carriageway and single carriageway. Okay, dual carriageway. Now, if I ask you the difference between dual carriageway and single carriageway, you will look at these two pictures and you will say that dual carriageway has more lanes and single carriageway has only 2 lanes. But this is not the main difference. Number of lanes is not the main difference. Okay, the main difference is the separation between the two directions. So you can see in both the top pictures, both directions are separated with something, with some physical object. A median, in this case, a guardrail. In this case, you can see the plantation here. Okay, but if you look at the bottom picture, there is no separation between the two lanes. Okay, and these two lanes are for different directions. Okay, they are not for same direction. I'm talking about separation between two lanes of different directions. So in a single carriageway, both the directions are only separated with some marking or something. Okay, there is no physical element of the road which is dividing the two directions. Okay, that is single carriageway. On dual carriageway, you will find an object or a physical element which is dividing both the direction of the road. Okay, and this is what they will teach you when you go for the license as well. In the first lecture, they will tell you the difference between dual carriageway and single carriageway. Obviously, if you have only one direction road, then you will not make it dual carriageway, right? Or if you have only one lane, then one lane cannot be made dual carriageway. So obviously, dual carriageway is for multi-lane highways. Okay, but the word dual and single is coming from the separation. Okay, here both directions are separated, and here they are not separated. Okay, even if it is for one direction, then separation is not required, so it will automatically become a single carriageway. Okay, now in Bahrain, single carriageway is further subdivided into 3 types: alleyway, one way, and two way, and then you have the dual carriageway. Okay, so lane of an alleyway is a small street or a side street, one way road in one direction, so we don't need to make the dual carriageway. So lane is also one lane. Lane means it's a single lane. So single lane can only be one direction, right? So lane means it's a single lane road which is only going in one direction. One way, it can be more than one lane as well. Okay, but it is again one direction, so no need to make it dual carriageway. Two way, so we have 2 lanes, each one is in different direction, but there is no separation between them. So even if you come to our in the educational area, when you cross the roundabout at the second gate and you go ahead towards the schools, there you have the Bayani school and so on, on the same road. Okay, the road where we have the gates of the campus. If you go ahead, it's 2 way, but without any separation. So it's a single carriageway, but it's 2 way. Okay, or you can see it maybe on other roads as well in your own area. Okay, but this is in the education area. Then we have dual carriageway, which have some separation, and as I told you, normally they have more than one lane in each direction. Each direction will have at least 2 lanes for dual carriageway. Okay, and you can see the standards for speed as well. Okay, this is the cross section for a single carriageway road, single carriageway cross section. Okay, so it has 2 lanes, one for each direction maybe. Okay, then there's shoulder, so lane, this is the midpoint, lane, shoulder. Then you have the side slope, or what I called as the embankment as well. Remember in the last chapter? Okay. Then you come to this side, lane, shoulder. Then we have again the side slope or the embankment, but this is going up. So what type of cross section is it in terms of cut and fill? This is cut and fill both. Because here on the right hand side ground is low, so it is fill. On the left hand side ground is high, so it is cut. So this cross section is cut and fill both. One more thing which you can see here is this drainage ditch. Okay, why it is there? For drainage. It is not required here because the side slope itself is going down. So the water will go out from the surface of the road. From the shoulder it will go to the side slope and then away from the surface. But here the side slope is going up. So I made an extra ditch here so that the water from the road surface will accumulate in this drainage channel and then it will move forward. Okay, so I don't want the water to accumulate on the road itself. So if the side slope is starting from here and going up, then obviously the water will accumulate on the lane, which I don't want, so I made a drainage ditch here. So wherever you have a cut section, then before the embankment you need some drainage channel as well. Okay, then you can see the side slopes are mentioned here, 2:1, 4:1. Okay, these are the side slopes, or these side slopes are taken according to the height of the cut or the height of the fill. If the height of cut or fill is higher, is more, then you will take a steep slope 2:1. If it is less, then you will take a flatter slope which is 4:1. Okay, and I will show you the standards later on. So basically, the value of the embankment slope or the side slope depends upon how much is the difference between the road level and the ground level, the height of cut or fill. One more thing is the difference in slope between the lane and the shoulder. Usually, shoulders have a higher slope than the lane. So lanes are almost flat. Okay, they have slope. They have very small slope, maybe 1% or something like that. But slope of the shoulder is higher than the lane, and the side slope is even higher than the shoulder as well. So it is going like this. Okay. So when you go to the shoulder, it will give you an indication. Okay. This is a dual carriageway. So you can see the median here, but this is only half of the carriageway. So because the other side will be similar to the to this side. So I'm only showing the right hand side of the cross section here. The left hand side is similar to the right hand side. Okay, so you have the median and the inside shoulder and the lanes, and I told you it will be 2 or more lanes usually, and then you have the shoulder on the outer edge, and then you have the side slopes. Okay, cut or fill, whatever it is, the side slope. The other side of the road will be similar to that. You will have again shoulder, lanes, and shoulder and the side slope. Okay, so these are the cross sections of the road, typical cross sections. Now, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, I will go for the attendance. Visal Muhammad. Visal Muhammad. Zahra Ali Ahmad. Zahra Ali Ahmad. Okay, Zahra is here. Mahmoud, I will mark you in the end. Balqis Muhammad.
Yes.
Okay. Mahdi Abdulillah. Allah Munir. Ibrahim. Ali Hussain.
Here.
Fatma Muhammad.
Yes.
Fatma Muhammad. Fatma is here. Okay, fine. Latifa Hassan.
Yes.
Okay. Manal Yasin.
Yes.
Faisal. Sara Khamis. Zainab Ali Ahmad. Noor Tawfiq. Kausar Mustafa. Mohammed Jafar. Bayan Kadim. Sorry, Bayan Kadim is here. Wasan Rafiq. Wasan Rafiq. Okay, Wasan Rafiq is here. Okay. Anyone left? And from this section? Done, right? I will go for section 1 now. Mahmoud is here. Anybody else? Okay, Mahmoud done. Anybody else from section 1? Anybody else from section 1? Okay, so I'll see you guys tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Doctor, me.
Yeah.
I'm from section 2.
Yes.
From section 2, Mahdi.
Yeah, I marked you. You didn't raise your hand earlier? I think I marked you. Okay, okay. Sorry. Now it's done. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.